Okay, so if you're not sure what's going on here, that was Harry Styles calling the Hogs.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It was kind of like, what am I doing? Anyway, Mizzou taking on Arkansas Friday afternoon, early third quarter. The Hogs go up there. Nice cutback for the touchdown by Traylon Smith. Razorbacks up 17-6. Later in the quarter, same score. KJ Jefferson hits Traylon.
So much better at throwing the deep ball.
That is beautiful.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
And you know what? Burks has really stepped up toward the latter half of this season. That's been good to see. Fourth quarter, Hogs up big. Burks runs the option.
How about this play?
Oh,
got him. Come on.
Raheem Sanders ends up getting the touchdown. Hogs win the Battle Line Trophy. Number 25 Arkansas defeating Missouri 34-17. Let's go to number 3, Arkansas at Alabama. The Hogs line up with a 49-yard field goal. It's a fake though. Reed Bauer with the jump pass to Blake Kern. Kern makes a one-handed grab, rumbles his way in for the 32-yard touchdown. What a play for Arkansas. They were not able to pull off the road upset, but man, this play had a lot of people thinking, especially in that moment, and it was a big moment for these Arkansas Razorbacks. Got another win this week.
Best coach not named Kirby Smart.
He is coach of the year this year. I got Sam Pittman.
Yes, sir.
Coming into this season, everybody thought Arkansas had the hardest schedule, that they weren't going to get that many wins. For him to pull off 8 wins regular season, hats off to that man and what that program is doing.
We truly have seen some great games this year, but there's one fan base that I feel like got extra excited this year, and that's the Arkansas Razorbacks out in Fayetteville. And with that, we welcome in the head coach of the Hogs, Sam Pittman, leading his team to an 8-4 record this year. Coach Pittman, thanks so much for joining us. I know we're going to ask you about the 2 teams we're going to see later here today, but how you been in the postseason? How you guys doing getting ready for a bowl game?
Well, we got all of Saturday off, and then we went on the road on Sunday and been in here and have a recruiting weekend this weekend. So we've been pretty busy. We haven't started bowl prep yet. We will. We're going to wait till probably next Friday to start, and we'll practice Friday and Saturday, depending on, obviously, getting ready for whomever we play.
Coach Pittman, a lot of people think that Georgia is just this carbon copy of Alabama and Kirby Smart is this carbon copy of Nick Saban, but I know you know a little bit different from working for Kirby Smart for all those years. How did Kirby bring his own sort of panache, his own sort of vibe and swag to the Georgia job when you were with him?
Well, I think the first part is the passion that Kirby has for Georgia. You know, he played there and those things, and I think we all, a lot of us have the template from that worked with Coach Saban from Alabama. You know, I think Kirby brought some of that over as well, and we brought it from Georgia. But it's just the difference in Kirby, or not difference, I don't know about Coach, but Kirby's a passionate recruiting machine. And what he's done at Georgia is go out and get some of the finest players in the country, and they are nasty, big, physical. Got a really good team, and it starts with the passion from the head coach.
Coach Pittman, I'm interested because everybody talks about Bryce Young, right? And then everybody talks about this Georgia defense. But what makes Stetson Bennett and this Georgia offense difficult to play against?
Well, they have playmakers. Starting with Stetson Bennett. I mean, Stetson Bennett, I can remember 2 years ago we were playing Georgia. We were ahead at halftime, and Stetson came in the second half, and I don't know how bad they beat us, but maybe it's 20-something points, and just have, you know, he's a competitor. He'll hurt you with his legs. He's a good a passer as well, but he seems to make plays when it looks like maybe there's not anything there. But the best compliment I can give him is he loves Georgia and he's competitive.
Sam, you played both teams and had different results against each one in terms of the scoreboard. What would you have done differently against each team? What would you have done differently against Georgia, and then what would you have done differently against Alabama?
Well, I don't think the show's long enough to tell you what we'd do differently against Georgia. They jumped on us so fast that day. Certainly, we learned something from crowd noise. You know, we did motions and things of that nature. I think the crowd would take us out of some of those motions and things of that nature. With Alabama, certainly we tried to play as many safeties back there. And certainly we would probably try to get another safety back there and say, hey, if you're going to run it, run it. Because Bryce Young, he had a historical night against us.
Coach, we talk so much about copycatting in this league, and when you look at the tape from both of these teams, there's plenty to look back on from Alabama, including y'all's game where you gave them a lot of problems. There's plenty for Georgia to look at and go, okay, if we can copy that, maybe we can give them a hard time. But not really the case for Georgia. There hasn't been a lot of people who've been able to affect Georgia in the same way. As a coach, from a coaching perspective, how do you go about preparing when there isn't a lot out there for one team versus another?
Well, so first of all, it starts with it. You got to get your own team ready, and Kirby's really good at that. The other thing about you can't compare. That's the worst thing we can do in coaching is compare scores and compare yardage and compare all that, because it has really nothing to do with what's going to happen on Saturday. It's all about matchups and how do we match up against somebody else and how ready is our football team. They'll both be ready. They're both really good football teams. But I don't think either coach is comparing scores or anything of that nature, because it's really irrelevant whenever they get in that SEC championship game, which I've been a part of 3 of them, and it's incredible environment.
So, Coach, this might be a difficult question. I'm going to challenge you on this one. I just want you to give one aspect of the game that is the most important for facing Alabama and facing Georgia. If it comes down to one thing that the teams have to have down, what would it be?
Well, you have to find a way to stop Jamison Williams. I mean, that's hard to do, but he is a difference maker, and as much as anybody in college football, and you have to find a way to run the ball on him. Nobody has, but you can't just be one-dimensional, I don't think, and beat Georgia. You have to find a way to have some success, and some success may be rushing for 80 to 100 yards. That may be success, but you have to be able to win first down on Georgia, because they'll get you behind the sticks, and I believe that you have to find a way to run the ball. That's very difficult to do.
Well, Coach, we know this is a very busy time of year for you, so we appreciate you stopping by and giving us some great insight. We're looking forward to seeing where you and Larry and the guys end up in the postseason, Coach. We'll see you soon.
Have the rest of the top 25 now.
Oh, that's still out there?
That's still out there.
Hey,
okay, we should talk about that.
You've gotten some hints when you see some of the rankings of the bowl game matchups. So here is the college football playoff, the final rankings. Remember, they don't do a ranking after the bowl games. This is it. Presented by AT&T 5G. Texas A&M stays in at number 25. San Diego State had a big problem with COVID yesterday. They lost a ton of regular players. I don't want to take anything away from Utah State, who won the Mountain West, but San Diego State, after losing that game handily, slips 5 spots.
And you knew they were going to lose handily because we all picked San Diego State on set at game day. So
I think it had more to do with the COVID.
How about the way Louisiana played? Billy Napier's last game before going to the University of Florida looked real good against App State. Levi Lewis throwing and running. Good season for Louisiana.
They lost that opener against Texas, 12-1 now. They'll go into the postseason. Kentucky and Arkansas in the rank there.
You have to look at Penn State, Arkansas. Arkansas has been a great feel-good story all year long, starting with their performance week 2 against Texas. They burst onto the scene, had that disappointment, got a little bit too close to the sun and got burned against Georgia, but they've rallied and have played pretty well down the stretch, including what was a very competitive game on the road in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see what they put forth against a good defense and what's been obviously a very up and down Penn State team all year.
I don't know many people that would have thought this, let's say 2 years ago, that Arkansas would end the 2021 football season in the Outback Bowl against a team out of the Big Ten like Penn State, but that's exactly where the Razorbacks are headed, with a great opportunity for the program's first 9-win season since 2011. It's just an incredible turnaround. We talk about it all the time in Fayetteville under head coach Sam Pittman. Over the 18 and 19 seasons, the Razorbacks won just 4 games. None in conference play. But under Pittman, they've won nearly 3 times as many games overall games in conference play. And there's a guy that's been around for every single bit of this. He is Arkansas linebacker Grant Morgan, ending your 6th year in Fayetteville. And everybody loves watching you, and we know that. Put it in perspective. I mean, you've seen the tough, you've seen the great, and now you get to cap this thing, your career, with an opportunity against a team like Penn State.
Yeah, and this is exactly how we want to end it. We want to be able to go up against a really good program. But it's been highs, it's been lows, it's been everything in between here at Arkansas. So to be able to go out like this and with the guys of this team, that the way we're playing right now, we're just as hot as anybody. So we're excited to be able to go out there, represent the SEC, represent Arkansas, and show exactly what type of team we are.
What makes you most proud, Grant?
Not being the person that people think I am. I want to prove myself right and prove people wrong. That's what makes me proud.
Not being the what do they think you are? What do you think they think?
I'm a walk-on.
Yeah.
I was a walk-on. We're little old Arkansas. As a team, as a defense, people don't think we're as good as we are. Coach Pittman wasn't expected to be a coach that could do this. That's what makes me proud. Things like this. We're proving people wrong every single day. That's my mindset. That's always my preaching method to we prove people wrong. We go out there and we earn their respect. We don't care what they think about us, but we're proving ourselves right too.
You know, there may very well be plenty more football in your future, but you've got one more game to wear that uniform. How do you approach preparing for it, knowing that's the last one?
I think it's fairly easy, actually. Not being able to have a real season last year when we had a COVID year, it kind of let us know, like these games are numbered. These games, every game could be your last. So I think being able to prepare this last game, it's going to be fairly easy for us to prepare for it because we've been preparing like it's our last game all year. I've been preparing every single game like it's our last game. So I think it's going to be fairly easy to prepare for it, but we have to be able to go and prepare better than we ever had. Just because this is fairly new ground to us. We haven't been to a bowl game. So we got to be able to prepare and act like it's a normal game playing here at Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Yeah, and your schedule over the last couple of years has been the toughest in all of college football. You've seen the best of the best. Now you get to step out of conference play and play a team that I think they would tell you it's been a little bit of a disappointing season with 5 losses, but it's still a team that's loaded with talent. James Franklin, a familiar coach to the SEC folks. What are you most excited about playing a Penn State?
We're playing a team that has a logo on their helmet that's really good. They've been good in football for many years. Coach Franklin's done a really good job with that program. He's built them into a powerhouse where you go and watch them and how they play in their conference. Like they're always a team that is going to either win it or be up there and be in competition with it. So when you look at their games, they're 7-5, but you look at theirs, their losses are really close. Like they lost a really close game to Michigan. So that's pretty much their 5 losses. They beat Auburn this year early in the year. So that's a good win for them. And so we got to be able to go out there and play like this is the best game of our career just because this is the only one that matters. This is our national championship. So we got to go out there and be able to play the type of brand and the type of football we need to play.
So good to see Arkansas in a moment like this, in a game like this. After all, I know that you guys have been through some tough stuff, but man, what a way to end this season and your career in Fayetteville. Grant, good talking to you, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck against the Nittanies.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and go Hogs.
What would a 9-win season mean for this team, given all it's been through pre-Pittman?
I mean, it mean a lot. I mean, at 8 wins where they are now, they haven't had 8 wins since 2015. It'd be their first 9-win season since, 2011. Yeah. And so this is just the next step in the Pittman era. Last year wasn't super great in the 2020 COVID year, but you heard at the very beginning of the year the confidence that he breathes in this team. I remember an interview that he was doing about K.J. Jefferson. There was speculation that they may go in the transfer portal and get a quarterback, and he said, you know what? KJ is my guy, and you've seen the way KJ has matured over this year. I think this is huge for Arkansas. I think it's a great matchup. I think the game will be decided in the red zone where Penn State is number 1 in the Big Ten in red zone defense, but Arkansas is number 1 when it comes to red zone conversion. So
I was going to say, go ahead.
No, I like Arkansas.
I like them too.
I like them.
And not a lot of people liked them at the beginning of the season. I think FPI had them winning maybe 5.5 games or so. They far exceeded what the expectation level was. And I think it's because they just love to compete. They love to play with one another. These guys would probably show up and play in a parking lot if they had the opportunity to do it. But I like something that Grant said. It's like, hey, we recognize who we're playing. This is a blue blood of college football, Penn State. And if you could add a victory over Penn State to Texas A&M, LSU, 3 teams you've already beaten, that's a real accomplishment for this Arkansas program.
That is absolutely true. I mean, thinking about just where they were a couple of years ago and the way you talk about culture change, I can't think of a place where there's been a bigger culture change.
Yeah, that'd be 5 out of 6. That's how they'd end the season.
Year,
5 out of 6 wins, and the only loss being Alabama.
Best non-conference CFP game. Okay, thank you, Coach, for doing that. Outback Bowl, Penn State and Arkansas. I really think this is a classic matchup. I think that, Penn State is a storied program. They're going to travel well, but this is Arkansas's chance to take the next step in the Sam Pittman era. KJ Jefferson has matured. Traylon Burks is the best wide receiver in the SEC, probably one of the best, if not the best in the entire country. And so I'm excited for Arkansas because this is a team that started off hot, has some big wins, had the #1 strength of schedule, but has made it to another bowl game.
Yeah.
Going to be a great one down there at the Outback.
The most important thing that we don't know yet is who's going to be the bloomin' onion, who's going to be the coconut shrimp, right? I mean, they still do that after one of the teams wins.
Do they do that?
I don't know. That's a thing. I don't know. I played the Outback Bowl.
That's one game I never played in the Outback.
The All-SEC team, first team offense, is being presented to you, and it's Bryce Young, as if there is any doubt. Batty, Robinson, Williams, Burks, Bowers. Yeah, we heard his name a few times on Saturday. Kennard, Neal, Green, Cross, Fortner, Evis. A pretty attractive first team offense. You ready for the defense? I am. It looks pretty familiar. A lot of dogs on there. Jordan Davis. Certainly Wyatt. A couple of A&M players. Dean from UGA. Clark from LSU. McCreary, Battle, Foster, Brown, Murata, and Jones. So certainly the season of awards has begun.
Arkansas linebacker Grant Morgan is the winner of the Burlsworth Trophy. That's presented to the most outstanding college football player who began his career as a walk-on. Georgia's Stetson Bennett was one of the finalists for this award as well. Morgan went from a walk-on at Arkansas to a 2-time team captain, one of the top players in the SEC.
Penn State, Arkansas, there are going to be so many Arkansas fans in that audience in Tampa. It is Arkansas's first Florida Bowl game in over a decade.
As always, right here on the Feinbaum Show, we do wrestling headlines. WWE unveils its inaugural NIL class. 15 different student athletes doing it, including several members of the SEC. You see 5 different players selected for the next in line deal for name, image, and likeness. You see that name on the list, Dalton Wagner, calling the Hogs here, and he's calling us here on the Paul Feinbaum Show, joining us coming up right now. How flippin' cool is this, man? Like, give me the background of how a deal like this, I mean, working with WWE, explain it.
Dude, it was one of the coolest things I think I've ever experienced. I mean, I, like a lot of other people, grew up watching it all the time. And they one day reached out to me on Instagram after NIL had passed and were like, hey, we're really looking forward to pursuing an NIL deal with you guys. We're making a big push in this and want to make a big announcement. And we'd really like to get you on board. And of course, what do you say to that? Of course, yes, whatever you want me to do. And to be able to go and talk to the people and get this whole deal set up and the big announcement today, it's been one heck of an experience.
So explain this to me. Before we get into what it exactly is, walk us through the process of whether it be WWE or a barbecue joint or whatever, getting in touch with a student athlete right now. What are the steps that you have to do to make deals like this happen?
There's a whole bunch of them. There's a lot of red tape and everything you got to go across. But for the most part, it just starts with communication, whether it's through text messaging, phone calls, DMs on social media platforms. But a lot of it's really just communicating first between the athlete and the vendor, and then the vendor will go and contact the compliance department as we start to move forward with all of this.
All right, so one of those vendors was WWE, which I could just see, like, you smile even whenever it comes up every single time. So what does this relationship mean for you? I know they have a performance center down there in Florida. Like, what does this look for Dalton Wagner and these other 15 athletes that got this opportunity?
Yeah, it's essentially just a gateway to show you the world beyond your sport. And the way it was explained to me is that it's like a recruiting kind of deal, and they'll take you down to the performance center. They'll show you around all your stuff. They'll show you different venues and places where you get to go work or would be able to go work. And on top of that, you'll do some social media promotions. They'll help you out with engaging followers and such. And at the very end of your contract, you have an option to you either go to your professional sport of your choice, or you get an open contract with the WWE with the possibility of being able to sign with them.
All right. So which route do you think that you lean towards at this point?
I don't know. I'd really like to try the NFL first, and then after that, I'll go give the WWE a shot. I think it's the NFL has definitely still been a dream of mine as a kid, and that's all with coming back one more year, just trying to boost my draft stock as much as I can.
And speaking of that, too, because you guys have been incredible, it's been such a fun team to watch. And when I say the word team, from Grant Morgan to Bumper to, Traylon and all these guys, it just seems kind of special what Pittman has brought. When Sam came in, did you know it was going to be this quick of a turnaround in this kind of family environment in Fayetteville?
Since his first meeting, yes, absolutely. He came in, and the first thing he talked about is trying to earn everybody's trust, everybody's respect and admiration. And he successfully did that in a matter of a few weeks. I mean, he turned it around like no one really could see it from the outside when we're doing all of our winter conditioning and winter strength and training. And, of course, COVID hit, so that's probably one of the hardest things as new head coaches. Oh, crap, now you've got a pandemic to deal with. Your student-athletes aren't in the facility, but he came in and he dealt with it like a champ. And he turned this program around in a matter of a year and a half, and he's done a tremendous job. And from his first meeting, everyone on the team knew it.
8-4 this season and 4-4 in the toughest division in all of college football. You go back and let's say whenever you become a Hall of Fame wrestler down after a illustrious 10-year NFL career, what memory from the 2021 season is going to be the first one you write about in your book?
Beating Texas for sure. That was especially. It was, Razorback Stadium was sold out. It was one of the cruelest experiences I've ever seen. And I know most of my teammates would probably say the exact same thing. Like, to come out last year of being 3-7, and now you're going into this new year, and you got big Texas coming into town. And for us to do that, it was the most memorable thing I've ever done in college.
Just that environment. My weekend co-host, Katie George, who calls games for ABC, was on the field, and she goes, this was the first SEC game I ever had a chance to, and I saw the fans rush the field, and just that moment, she's like, I'm a SEC fan. So you got at least another adoptee there. Let's talk about your team right now. All right, so if WWE said, all right, Dalton, you're killing it, you're crushing it, we love you, we need one other member of the Arkansas Razorbacks that's going to be it's going to be perfect for the wrestling world. Which one are you picking as your tag team partner?
John Ridgway for sure.
Why is that?
I'm big, he's tough, he's mean, and I think he loves wrestling just as much as I do.
Okay, so every wrestler has their kind of that heel. You got to have that opponent that, there's a little bit of, no love loss. Who would be the one person on the other side of the ring that you would have this this relationship with that you just love to hate?
I'd probably say it'd have to be Roman Reigns, honestly. As much as I love the guy, it'd be really awesome to have a battle against him. But he does awesome stuff for the wrestling world. But it'd be a cool matchup, especially since he was the one to take out the Undertaker.
I love that. That would be tough. It's kind of like when Ric Flair and what was it? Was it his son or somebody in there? It's like it broke my heart that he was going to have to put down Ric Flair in the ring, and it's that meme about he's just crying. That would.
I remember Shawn. That took him out, and I remember They gave him chin music and then was just said, "I'm sorry," right after he did it.
I'm sorry. I love that gif. I'm going to ask you about the Penn State game coming up in the Outback Bowl in just a little bit, but I want to go back to you had an opportunity to face some of the best players in college football that went after this offensive line. Who gave you the biggest problem all your season long?
Will Anderson, for sure. He's an incredibly special player, and for him, I was surprised when he wasn't in the Heisman finalists for a lot of that stuff. He was he was Defensive Player of the Year, and he was an elite rusher. And he did things that, like, you couldn't even really be ready for. Like, he'd go and gap exchange across to the other side of the line and still make a play. And it's just like, how do you stop that? And he's an elite player, and he's only going to get better from here on out.
I would imagine. Did you watch the SEC championship game? I don't know if you get some guys just completely unplugged when it's not the season. So you saw it. Were you surprised at what happened in that game, or did you knew something like that was coming after having played Bama earlier this year?
After playing both of them, Georgia and Bama, I was a little surprised. But at the end of the day, you still got to remember, like, that's Alabama. That was the number one team in the country for a while. They're a strong team. They're a very well-coached team. I know Coach Saban does a tremendous job down there in coaching, and his whole staff does an amazing job. And he really is, when you think back to it, it comes down to brass tacks. And that team was ready to play. They were ready to go to the SEC championship. And so was Georgia, too, and they just had a nice slug.
For you, last one, you guys get ready for the Outback Bowl. What's this process look like? Have you had an opportunity to start reading up on Penn State and looking at some film?
Yeah, we haven't as a team yet had an opportunity yet, but I've looked into them a little bit. They got a really good linebacker core in there. They've got a stout DN group, too, along with their D-line, and overall just tremendous defense. It'll be a nice matchup for us, especially first time going to Florida in quite a while for the Razorbacks, and it's going to be an awesome matchup. The team's really excited for it. I know Penn State's probably just as excited as we are, and it's going to be a really good matchup. Outback Bowl.
Two fun programs going at it over there in the Outback Bowl. Are you coconut shrimp or bloomin' onion guy?
Bloomin' onion for sure.
Okay. All right. You see, there it is. We're absolute heels of each other because I'm all team coconut shrimp. Would you, by the way, be able to get Paul Feinbaum now a contract with WWE Wrestling? Do you think he would fit into that group?
I think he would. I think he'd do a great job. I think he could make it. He'd have to pull some strings, I think. I don't think I'm the one to pull the strings, but I definitely think he'd be a great.
Dalton, make it happen. I want to see Paul Feinbaum get thrown through, the table there in ringside, and that would be unbelievable. A cage match, it would be fantastic. He's Dalton Wagner. Congratulations to that young man. What a great opportunity there, getting an opportunity to be a part of the WWE.
The All-SEC freshman team, AR-15. At the QB position, a lot of other big names on that list. Bowers. I feel like every time I look up, Brock Bowers is catching another pass. And on defense, some pretty good names as well. What did you expect? I mean, these are the bright. Hey, Kool-Aid made it. What else matters?
The Burlsworth Trophy goes to the outstanding player who started his career as a walk-on, and this time it goes to Arkansas linebacker Grant Morgan, who was a finalist for it last year. He led this nation in tackles last season in the regular season. This year, fought through injuries, 98 tackles. You probably know he's the first Arkansas player to win the Burlsworth Trophy, which is named for Brandon Burlsworth, a former Arkansas player who went from walk-on to two-time All-SEC to draft choice before he was tragically killed in an automobile accident just 11 days after being drafted. Congratulations to Grant Morgan, winner of the Burlsworth Trophy.
Mike, it's time for history to be made. The winner of the 2021 Heisman Memorial Trophy is Bryce Young. We've had very shortened practices with the veterans so far. The first two non-contact, non-padded practices
we will put on the shells today, and practice won't be lengthy. I mean, we have 13 left, probably about an hour and 25 minutes, but we will do inside run and force and 7-on-7, all of it today.
The folks who've seen a lot of Arkansas football think Traylon Burks might be, ranked in the very top of all-time Arkansas receivers. And you may not be in position to compare him, but, just his skill set, the catches he's made, and his time under you, what have you thought of his?
Well, he's a great kid, great character, unbelievable one-on-one guy. I mean, when he's one-on-one, just throw it to him, and he'll be able to come down with it if it's really anywhere close to him. Matured this year, I thought, a lot as a competitor. I thought he competed very, very well, very hard. He's got a bright future in the game and has a bright future outside of the game. I think the whole state of Arkansas is proud of what he did, and I certainly am, and we're very thankful that he was here for 3 years. I don't know what they do with the grass, but they don't play on it, I don't think. I mean, it was outstanding. It was so exciting to be in Tampa, and what a welcome committee was there, and obviously the Outback Bowl is nationally known as a New Year's Day bowl, and they had some neat activities and things. Got to visit with a lot of different folks, and just feeling, they played the Super Bowl in Tampa last year, and so there was a lot of excitement. I was very honored to be there and represent Arkansas and the university. It was a lot of fun. It's hard to explain, but I can tell you when we walked out, I don't know, maybe 6:37 at night. I don't know, Kyle, exactly the time, but it was hot when we walked out. So that's cost the kids a little bit more conditioning so far in camp.
Let's move on to another team in the SEC West, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Sam Pittman going into his third season. Their class rank coming in at number 18 overall. Hobbs, what do we need to know about this Arkansas class?
It all starts at home. Did a really nice job within the state of Arkansas. 8 of the top 10 prospects from within their border, he was able to keep close to home. 2 of those guys were offensive linemen. You see leading that class, Andrew Chambly, and also they really did a nice job of bringing in some wide receiver help as well. But you own the state, and that's what he did.
The freshman, Hunter Henry. The true freshman from Little Rock. And quite a prospect.
This team needs more of those Hunter Henrys if they want to get themselves to the next level.
Perfect strike to Henry, the tight end.
That was a great catch to Hunter Henry.
Who was going to make the one-on-one play? Hunter Henry gets it done.
Touchdown, Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry for the touchdown.
Is this guy Hunter Henry pretty special or what? He is terrific. What a future he has.
Yeah, Hunter Henry was one of those names that we learned quick as Sam Pittman gets ready for his third season as the head hog out in Arkansas. Their class ranked number 18 overall, 8th in the SEC. Hobbs, what's been the focus for Arkansas this year?
Good recruiting starts at home, and Sam Pittman has locked down that state. 8 of the top 10 players in the state of Arkansas are staying at home. I think that is huge. And also, I really like about this class is at least 15 of them are planning to enroll early. So he's going to get a large group of this class already on campus with the talent, and then with the spring, certainly gives you the opportunity to get some of those players into the mix as true freshmen.
I think there have been millions of people, millions of college football fans, it's probably safe to say, who have fallen in love with Sam Pittman, his style, not only his coaching style, but the way he talks to fans, the way he recruits. It's certainly been working out there in Fayetteville. And the head hog joins us now from inside his office out there in Fayetteville. Oh, with the nice red jacket. We love that, Coach. How's your signing day been so far?
Oh, it's been great. Signing day certainly changed, guys. It's a deal where by 7:30, most, if not all, of your recruits are signed up, ready to go. With the take a picture and send it in. So it's been fairly easy, to be honest with you, today. And we basically have all that all that we thought. We're certainly waiting on a couple of more to see if we're lucky enough to get them in our class.
Sam, you know, obviously your first year you're selling hope, right? You're selling a vision to these guys, and this is the first year really that you've had kind of tangible evidence that this program is definitely ascending. I mean, 8 wins with the opportunity to win 9. How much of a sell has that been with the guys you're recruiting, right? It's not just kind of a vision anymore. You can actually see it happening.
Well, Coach, that's a great question. I think a lot of it is just from the players that maybe committed somewhere else that decided to come back to us, and they were brutally honest with us. And they said, "Hey, Coach, you know, I had one come in and say, you're 8th in the country, you're 4-0. I didn't think you'd ever get there. I want to be a part of the program." We've had at least 5 guys say, "Hey, it's exciting to say I'm going to Arkansas." People respect that now. A lot of times you have to win. A lot of times you have to win the pep rally, and we weren't a team that could, but we are one now that I think you could be proud if you say, "Hey, I'm going to the University of Arkansas." So it means a lot. This winning means a lot for us. And it's certainly, I could tell you at least 5 to 7 that specifically that was the reason that they chose us instead of going somewhere else.
Hey, Coach, you're sitting back there like Joe Cool with your jacket on, looking smooth and fly today. And, you know, Chiz is over talking about how much stress signing day was for him. You don't look like you're stressing at all. But maybe can you just talk about how important it was, you know, not only talk about the players that you're signing now, but to have my man Jalen Catalon say, "I'm coming back for another year" with his special talent and what he means to your program going forward?
Well, Jalen's a leader for us. You know, certainly hurt us when he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know how that is. Your team gets better. You know, Slusher went in there and played well. He's going to be a better football player because of that. Ricky Stromberg coming back as well. Put that out last week. Our starting center, all SEC caliber guy coming back. That certainly helped us too. But you know, those are big, big players for us. We've got some super seniors that we're going to try to get to return with us as well. So, you know, we proved this year, I think, if you have a veteran football team, that you have opportunities to win a little bit easier in this league, and you need them.
Coach, you know, really impressed with the job that you've done in state. Obviously, there's no core base that's more familiar with your program. You usually grow up as fans. Could you talk about the blueprint and the success that you've had within your own state?
Well, we signed 10, and I think that's the most we've signed in several years. I think that reflects the success that we had in this particular cycle and this particular year. Anytime that the state is heavy with players, you know, that you won't. If we're going to take a chance, and I'm not saying we took any chances, but if we're going to take them, we're going to take them in the state of Arkansas because, you know, it's hard to – you can measure a lot of things. You can't measure the heart. You can't measure the determination. And I believe that the kids from Arkansas grew up loving the Razorbacks, calling the Hogs. So we take any chances at all to be in our state. But I'm really excited about the 10 that we were able to get here. And I want to thank the high school coaches for that. You know, the high school coaches were very, very loyal to us. And you know, guys like over at Parkview, Coach Boulding, trying to help us get guys. So very, very thankful for the state of Arkansas high school coaches.
Yeah, Coach, I got to spend some time with some Razorback fans over the summer, go to their home, and it's nothing but Arkansas hospitality. They eat, sleep, live, breathe, all things Arkansas Razorbacks. So if you could peel back the curtain for us when you go to these players' homes, when you meet their families, what are the conversations like that you're having recruiting them to come to Arkansas?
Well, I'm very grateful and very honored because they believe in us. You know, I mean, that's the beginning. And to be honest with you, they want to believe in us. You know, they want their sons to come to the University of Arkansas. And so the conversation goes a little bit about history. It goes about the future. That everybody always wants to know how long I'm going to stay. I look at myself in the mirror. I go, well, surely I'm not that old. I mean, I'm going to stay for a little while. But all those conversations go through. I can relate to them because I had an uncle that was a very, very big Arkansas fan when I was a young man, and he was very livid about demonstrative about the Razorbacks, and so it's still that way today.
Coach, the continuity of your staff, I don't think people realize the importance of that, but you've been able to keep Barry Odom. You've been able to keep Kendall Briles, so your offense and defensive philosophies don't change. How important has that been in the recruiting process with your guys?
Invaluable. I mean, I don't want to be one of those guys that has some success. And, you know, if my guys have an opportunity to go get a head coaching job, well, more power to them and congratulations. But if it's a coordinator job at any other school in the country, I don't believe they should leave. I hope the way I treat them that they shouldn't. And financially, the University of Arkansas has money too. And but with Scott Fountain and Briles and Odom, if we can keep those three guys at the university, we're going to have success. I believe that with all my heart. Obviously, if we have to lose one of them to a head coaching job, well, then we'll replace them. But I don't want to. I've seen it go downhill too many times when guys lost their key coordinators.
All right, Coach, I'm all about the drama and excitement of signing day. So here we go. Let's go here a little bit. So I know you don't get to hear the recruiting trail as much as you used to because now you're the head coach. You're no longer recruiting as much. But what's the best in-home meal you've had? Because I know that was what my mom took pride in, was cooking for the coach when they showed up. Also, what was the one kid that maybe got away? Like that one kid you're like, oh, I just knew I had him, and it just kind of fell over the wayside last minute. Every coach has one.
I'll tell you this. I had the best meal you ever. You know, I'm trying to drop a few pounds, like a bunch of pounds. And, everybody knows that I'm, you know. So I went up to the Steins up in Wisconsin, and they had Wisconsin cheese. They had these big old Alaskan shrimp. They had, what do you call those things? Lobsters. They had all kinds of stuff up there. I was so hungry trying to play it off like I wasn't, but I was so hungry, and I ate everything in sight because it was, you know, it was on the diet, you know. So that would have been this year. We went to a barbecue. We went to James Joyner's house, and they had barbecue. And man, it was unbelievable. But there were so many of them. The player that I lost that I thought. I'll be honest with you. I've been in a long time. I've lost a bunch of them. You know, that crushed me. You know, but you know, I really can't think of just one. I've lost a whole lot of players, and you know that's part of the game. You know, hopefully you work for a head coach that understands that you worked as hard as you possibly can, but you just lost him, and it wasn't because of work or relationship. It was just because. For some other reason, he decided to go to another school. But, you know, I will say this, that your life as a college coach is dictated by who you get and who you lose. And your mood and all those things, it just controls it. And you're going, man, I hope it doesn't. But you can ask Gene. It controls the way you feel about yourself, about your staff all the time.
Yeah, Coach, I don't have to sign anybody. I've been stress eating over the last 72 hours. You're looking great, but you're always going to be associated with the O-line, at least in my eyes, with your tradition here coaching that position. Give the big guys in this class, some of those from in-state like Chamblee, give those guys some love.
Man, I love Chamblee. I tell you, Marion Harris played unbelievably in the state championship game. Obviously, Eli Henderson. You know, I worked Eli Henderson out when I was at Georgia. I offered him when I was at Georgia. But those three guys there, and who am I missing real quick? Dadgummit. Eli, Chamblee.
Yeah, you going back to Harris, though, he's one of these guys too in state. He's a people mover. I mean, he's one of those guys where he's going to be tough to keep away from the training table, but he's one of those big guys in Chamblee. He's so athletic, the way he can bend, you know, especially too, you know, those guys. I think you got to feel like those are two guys who at the very least can work their way into the two deep.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I'll tell you this too, Patrick Kudas is a phenomenal offensive lineman. I mean, I think that he is as ready as any of them to come in and help us fast. I mean, he's a really good offensive lineman. So those 4 right there, we're really pumped to get. Obviously, 2 of those 4 were from the great state of Arkansas.
Well, Coach, before we let you go, I would just want you to know, before you said you can ask Coach Chizik, he was already nodding along to everything you were saying about the mood and the players.
It's horrible. I mean, it is. And you get off that call and you're either ecstatic and, hey, honey, where are we going out to eat? Or I don't want to even move out of my chair.
It's almost like you guys should form some sort of fraternity or something in the SEC. Coach, we know it's a busy day. We know it's an exciting day out there in Fayetteville, so we appreciate you stopping by, and we're looking forward to seeing the new class of Hogs next year.
Oh, y'all's the best. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Go Hogs now.
Good luck, Coach.
Great stuff from Coach Pittman, as always. I want to ask Chiz the question that you asked Coach Pittman. Who's the one that got away? Do you have one that comes to mind? Since Roman said, everyone has that one.
You know what? You know what my answer to that was? Every time I got asked that in the media, we don't talk about the ones we didn't get. We talk about the ones we did get.
Now you are the media.
What a great answer from Sam. I've lost so many over the years, I can't even remember who they are. And that's really, really true because you know what? You start out, think about this, guys. You start out a recruiting class, recruiting near 1,000 guys. That's who you're starting out recruiting number-wise, that many. And then you pare it down, and they go by the wayside for whatever the reason, either because you don't have a chance or, you go in another direction or whatnot. So, look, to name the one guy that you didn't get it's kind of hard.
I just think it's funny because he's like so emotional about it. And me being a former player, I'm like, well, I just chose my school because, Nike over Russ Athletic. Had absolutely nothing to do with it.
That's real,
It was like,
that's real.
I had a coach that was distraught because my decision was Russell Athletic or Nike. Based upon nothing. Nothing at all.
Crazy.
I want to hit one more thing, and it may sound very basic, but I think it's important to reiterate, and Hobbs talked about this, Coach Pittman talked about this with 10 in-state players. Why is that something that we stress every single year, Chiz? Why is it important to mine the state and keep guys at home? Why is that such a point of emphasis?
Well, again, there's a lot of pride. When you get guys from your home state that come play for your school, number one, there's a lot of pride there because in many cases, it was generational, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and there's a lot of pride that comes with that. A lot of guys that take a lot of pride in doing that. So what are they going to do? Those guys are not only going to come in and be very productive, at least that's what your goal is, right? But they're going to go out and recruit other people for you because they're passionate about that school. That's number one. But number two, that's a bad look when you got one of the best players in your state 25 minutes away and he goes to your rival university or somebody else in your league. That's a bad look. It just doesn't look like you can do your job.
Moving to the Outback, by the way, get your bloomin' onions on. We have got Penn State versus number 21 Arkansas. I think kind of a disappointing year for Penn State. Overall, tough defense, some real issues on offense versus our big beefy boys from Fayetteville. The king of Womp themselves, KJ Jefferson. I think this is a good matchup for Arkansas myself. Having said that, watch this be like a down-to-the-wire one-point affair.
Treylon Burks versus Jahan Dotson? I'm
signing up for that. All day.
I'm pretty excited for that one. I think Arkansas fans, like I said, I think they're going to turn out in full force for this game. I think they're hype about this season. I mean, 8-4 Arkansas coming into this game. It's something that we didn't see coming earlier in the season, and it's something where they are much more like this is a prize for them. Whereas Penn State, it feels a little consolation-y. Congrats.
I think Sam Pittman in the announcement press conference summed it up best when he said, "Bloomin' onion, blue pig suey."
Are you a bloomin' guy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll do a little bit of a bloomin'. You can do about that much of one, right? If you do that much of one, I think that's too much.
Dude, I will drink that sauce.
Yeah, shouts out to Ryan Nanny, the only man that we know who actually donned the bloomin' onion costume himself.
When you thought you were going to be singing Frank Sinatra's New York, New York on the subway on the way to the Bronx for the Pinstripe Bowl, or rolling the dice on the Las Vegas Strip, or maybe even singing the blues in Nashville, the Nittany Lions will be traveling to the Sunshine State of Florida to play against the Arkansas Razorbacks in the Outback Bowl. So pack up your sunscreen and shades because it's going to be a good one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Outback Bowl preview on Penn State Sports Night. I'm Zach Gershman, joined alongside Mac Young and Jude Wozniak. Guys, as I mentioned, there were a lot of speculations as to where the Nittany Lions were going to play at and who they were going to play. But I think one of the biggest surprises, and we were talking about it a little bit off camera, is who they're playing, being an SEC opponent, which the Nittany Lions have not had the chance to go 2-0 against an SEC opponent in history. Oh, that's one thing. And two, being on New Year's Day on January 1st at Raymond James Stadium. Mac, I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, Zach, it's really interesting because you talked about a little New York, some of the competing bowl games. Obviously, Maryland ended up there. And I was thinking maybe Music City or Las Vegas. That was Purdue and Wisconsin. So it was interesting because those teams at Purdue and Wisconsin, they were 8-4. They were better than Penn State. Honestly, I think the Outback Bowl in sunny Tampa, Florida, it's going to be a lot of fun. Raymond James Stadium. I think that's almost a better bowl game. So maybe we're thankful for that one. But Arkansas had a great finish to the season. They went 4-1 on their last 5 games after having a 3-game losing streak midseason. That one loss was to number 1 Alabama, who by far the best team in the country right now. They're on a roll. They just beat Georgia. While Penn State, they went 2-5 down the season. Obviously, a lot of crushing losses along the way. Iowa, Michigan, a lot of tough losses and close games. So really interesting to get this bowl game. It's gonna be a really tough opponent, but it should be a lot of fun. I think Penn State should be thankful to get in this kind of bowl game and hopefully end the season on a bright spot. Like you said, 2 wins against SEC team has never happened in their history. So should be really interesting in sunny Tampa, Florida. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, and for me, Zach, I'm ecstatic for this bowl because we avoid that abysmal pinstripe bowl in the Bronx. It's going to be freezing up there during that time. And for Penn State, if you look at it, this is the best possibility that they could have had. It's not that far of a flight. Everyone's starting to get healthy, and Clifford's last game here, potentially, we don't know yet, but this team has to be fired up. And I think this is a great opponent for them to play. I'm so happy they're not playing Arizona State or any of a lower-ranked team because this will really be able to show why Penn State this season is not as disappointing as it looks. If you beat a powerhouse SEC team like Arkansas, then that's a huge win. You go 2-0 this year, you beat Bo Nix earlier in the year in Auburn Tigers, and then you beat the Arkansas Razorbacks and KJ Jefferson. And I want to talk about him for a little bit. He's been phenomenal all year, only turning the ball over 5 times and only 3 of them being picks. He's really the dual threat quarterback that you want in college football. He is able to run, pass, anything, and he leads the team in rushing, or is second on the team in rushing with 550 yards. So I'm really excited to see how this defense will step up without their defensive coordinator and now their co-defensive coordinator who just got signed away this week. So for Penn State, it'll be a lot of adversity this week, and I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, the Arkansas Razorbacks are definitely no joke of an opponent, as you mentioned, kind of their strong end of the season push that they had. And on top of that, you mentioned KJ Jefferson, but this team has 7 all-conference players on top of Sam Pittman, who was AFCA Region 2 Coach of the Year. So James Franklin and his staff, which is now taking a little bit of a hit with Brent Pry and Anthony Pondexter leaving the team, they're going to have their work cut out for them. But for both of you, what are the keys to victory for this team? Jude, I'll begin with you, so that they return to Happy Valley on January 1st with a victory.
For me, honestly, it's win up on the defensive front and overall defensive battle because this year Penn State has a +6 turnover margin, Arkansas has a +5. So Arkansas has turned the ball over a little bit less than Penn State. They have 9 compared to Penn State's 13, but Penn State's got a little bit more turnovers this year. We have a phenomenal secondary, Brisker, and you got everyone back there. The linebacking core is incredible, forcing fumbles, being able to hit hard. But you just have to win up front on the defensive end and don't have those mental mistakes. Don't let KJ Jefferson get out of the pocket. Let him beat you with his arm. Don't let them beat you with his legs. And then for the offensive side, I've completely given up on this running game. You just got to let Clifford throw the ball, and he can't have the mental mistakes. Like I said, you need to win this turnover battle to win this game. And for Clifford, potentially his last game, as we've been saying, he needs to step up, and Dotson needs to show why he's the best receiver in college football.
Yeah, Jude, for me, it's something that Penn State hasn't been able to do all season. You talk about that run game. I think to win this game, they need to get creative in the run game. I think the run game obviously has been abysmal. Keegan Lee's the leading rusher. He only has 495 rushing yards. Penn State as a team, 3.1 yards per carry. It's been bad. Everybody can see that the run game has been terrible. But Penn State, when you watch your games, they run the same kind of shotgun draw play, zone run. They don't really change it up. I think James Franklin and this team, they need to get creative, run jet sweeps, run counter runs, run under center. Change it up so this Arkansas defense is confused and sees something that they haven't seen on tape all season long. And I think that could be a big key to victory because we've seen Keegan Lee have little sparks. He got close to 100 yards one game before getting hurt. So he's had the opportunities, but I think if they change it up, they could really have a bright spot and end the season on something that they really struggled for that was a bad thing all year, and maybe by changing it for the better.
And we also have to keep in mind, opt-outs from some of these players. We've seen a history of guys who are draft day eligible that are probably going to be projected first round, second round picks, and the Nittany Lions have a handful of them on their squad. So we're going to have to see what happens with that team, with who's going to be opting out, if anybody at all does. But at the end of the day, let's say the Nittany Lions come home with a win. Let's say they return to Happy Valley. They end their season beating an SEC opponent beating 2 SEC opponents for the first time in program history. Mac, how would you summarize, in the case of a win especially, how would you summarize this 2021 season?
Look, for me, win or lose, I think it's still a disappointing season. I don't want to say, I know Jude's going to disagree with me because I know what he has to say, but it's still a disappointing season. 75 before the year started, maybe you tell me that, I'd say good for Penn State. That's a solid year. It's a little bit of a rebuild year, a little bit of a retool year, a lot going on after the COVID 2020 year, which was a mess. But the way they lost those games, the way they lost to Iowa, the way they lost to Michigan on that 4th and 1 Hail Mary throw, it just leaves a sour taste in your mouth. Now, this is a great jumping off point, beating an SEC opponent 2 times in a season, a great bright spot, a great little upheaval for the recruits, for the fans to be excited about next year. But for me, the season's still a disappointment. It's still the season, the grip was right there, so close to being elite, but just so far, especially in a season where Ohio State had a freshman quarterback and Michigan took advantage of that by going to the college football playoff. So for me, still a disappointing season, but this could be a step in the right direction for Penn State.
And for me, I'm a part of the minority here, and I think this season isn't that disappointing because if you look at it, this is the rebuilding year, as I was saying. So 4 out of these 5 losses that Penn State had were by 2 or 3 points. And if you look at the Ohio State game, it was by 9 points, but for anybody who watched that game, it was a lot closer than it looked. You have a Clifford fumble, which is so unlucky for them, and someone who's 330 pounds outruns everybody on the Penn State offense, which who knows how that happens, but you have 3 stops when they're on the 1-yard line in the Ohio State game, and the defense really showed what they can do. For me, the biggest disappointment for Penn State's season is the tight end room. And I get it, you lost Pat Fryermuth, who is an incredible blocker and incredible reliable receiver, but Brenton Strange, all year, he's been seen as this receiving guy, and that Theo Johnson can block but can also receive, and he's a fast tight end. But Strange, in that Ohio State game and the Illinois game, had more drops than I could count on both of my hands. It was horrible. And I get Taquan Roberson, he came in and it's a different guy, different person throwing the ball, but he dropped so many passes in those 2 games where I looked at and I was like, I don't know, there has to be something up in that dude's head. So, but for Penn State, a win is kind of like a cherry on the top for me at this Outback Bowl. And honestly, I could see it happening because the way that Franklin gets this team ready is he's able to prepare his players and fire them up. It's whether or not he can adjust during halftime or stop maybe a quarterback run game during it or stop maybe one of their top receivers for Arkansas. So for me, the season's not too bad. It's 7-5. I know it's not the standard here. Neither is 8-4 seasons, but not horrible if you look at the roster at the beginning of the season.
You know, it's going to be very interesting to see if the Nittany Lions ultimately do come home with the win on New Year's Day against the Arkansas Razorbacks at the Outback Bowl. So that'll do it here for our bowl preview on Penn State Sports Night. For Jude Wozniak and Mac Young, I'm Zach Gershman. We'll see you in 2022.